grabbing my trusty pillow to sit on so I can be up higher. Hi, guys. Good to see you, or to talk with you, or to do both. My name is Martha Novak, and this is a show called Real Talk with Martha Novak, and we've got an important show today. We really do. It's a show I give once in a while, and I'll tell you why in a few minutes. But it is a show that I don't give often because I'm really dedicated to the issues that don't allow this to work. And by the way, everybody has the ability to have this work. But our issues get in the way. And that's why I do a lot of shows on what we need to do first before we do this, right? And we've just done a series on authenticity. So I thought this was a really important time, if you all are putting some of those lessons in your lives and at play, it's a really important time to now give the show again. As with all my shows, even if I repeat a subject, they're always completely different. I hope you get a lot out of this. There is, I think, a series, and I think this will be a series 2 or 3, but there is a previous series fairly early on, I think, in our relationship together on Blog Talk Radio that you can listen to. I don't think these things will be on Facebook Live archived there, but Blog Talk Radio, absolutely. This was before we joined the Facebook Live team. I hope you guys are doing well. We're doing very well here. It's, where we are doesn't have a whole lot of virus. There has been some. We're in the COVID-19 thing. I don't know when and what year. Sometimes listeners will be listening to this show. But do know that if you're listening to it in current time, I wish you all the best. Take your precautions and try not to worry because it is what it is, All right, that said, let's do a prayer. Get ourselves on the same page, and we're going to launch off into a discussion of how you can get what you want. This is creating the life you want, and it's rather advanced. So get your pens and papers or sit in front of your computer and take some notes. And you are certainly welcome to send me a note saying slow down or repeat yourself. I am delighted to do so. However, let me put on the table that while this program may be a little different, basically it's the same. And I have a book here actually called, can you see it? The Life You Want. I think it's probably backwards on your screen. It's backwards on mine. But I wrote this a while back. And it's not an easy book to get through. The Teacup Prophecies is much easier. This is just a book of quotes that you can use like an oracle. I have lots and lots and lots of dear friends who are not even in this program who use this every day, with their partners. They open to a page, each one of them, and they talk about it, and it's usually something that's going on in their lives that they can look at a different way. There is also, I must tell you, if you have an iPhone, you've got a tremendous advantage. We haven't been able to do this yet with Droid, but with iPhone, this book is on your, in your, what's it called? Apple Play Store or Apple Store. This book is on an app, and it's 99 cents. I mean, if you'd like to sit here and open it, like I kind of like Pages, and I don't have I don't even have my own app, if that tells you anything about me. I don't have an iPhone. So that's a really good way to get these messages and to use that. When you have this, you can sign up for daily message. By the way, we took great care to make sure that your daily messages are not the same message that anybody else gets. So you and your partner can sign up for these apps on your iPhone, and you can get completely different messages. The more prayerful you are about this, I think really God talks to you through a lot of these ascended messages. I know that I had that experience before we pray. I'll tell you a quick quick thing. My husband and I were watching television one night. It was something that, had our interest just enough, but we were exhausted and we weren't going to bed. So he decided he would pick up that book. This was when it was still in, being formulated. So he picked up some sort of rough draft of it. And I said, open it. Let's see what Spirit says about this. And he opened it to something that said, and I'm misquoting myself. Isn't that weird? And I think it was something like, when is over, when is enough. And he said, that's it, I'm going to bed. So it couldn't have been more specific than that. Let's do a prayer. We're going to launch into our new stuff. Dear God, thank you so much for the communion that we are all having together right now, that we will continue to have throughout these 90 minutes. We thank you so much for the material at hand, the people that are interested. Thank you for the channel we all are as we help each other achieve more and be more and open ourselves to the grace and goodness and beneficence of you. It's all there. We're in the way. So help us get out of the way, dear God. And we align ourselves now with our highest selves and the energy of love and abundance, which is you. We say now that we know nothing. We surrender for 90 minutes. And that we know nothing. It is the you through us and through all things that knows it all. So we open to that, every one of us. And so it is, in your name. In the name of the Ascended Masters, our love-centered guides and friends, and in the name of every single person listening to this show today. Thank you so much. And so it is. Amen. Okay, well, here we go. I guess I'll put on my glasses. I'm always enormously enthusiastic about this subject. I truly am. In my private sessions, in everything I've ever done, there's an element of, you are the aspect of God known as you. If we can just get to more and more of that by getting our old ego child's mind issues out of the way, we become, a spiritual being in physical form. If you don't think that makes this work easier, we got to start from the beginning. Because it does make this work easier. And I'm going to explain why in the body of my text today. I've written down thousands of points for you, and I hope I make myself clear. Be on top of me if I don't. And hello, Kat. Good morning, darling. I'm so excited that you're with us today. Yay. I love talking about this subject. At the same time, I don't talk about this subject a lot, because what I do talk about a lot is all the things that are in the way of this not working easily and effortlessly in your life. We have to prepare ourselves to do this. Now, I want to say to you that all of these programs out there that are promising you everything, I'm going to take you past that. Oh, yeah, next week I'm going to give you exercises. We'll talk about everything and how you can start doing this. But I am going to tell you the truth. That's what I'm supposed to do. My name is Martha Novak, and this is Real Talk. You're in your way. You were born with all the money, the abundance of all kinds, because abundance isn't just money. The talent to make money, and everything else. You were born with all of that. It's already in you. But because of our issues and what we need to overcome in life, we don't know that. And we don't get out of our ways, and we don't know how sometimes. We're going to help you with the hows. There's no reason in the world that you cannot manifest to a certain degree before you get clearer and clearer and clearer and clearer. But like anything, this is not one simple fix. You don't just walk in a room and turn on a light switch and have light. I mean, you do for light. It doesn't work for this. There are multiple sources. You've got generational issues. You've got inherited issues from your mother and father. You have issues of belonging to that family of origin. You have all sorts of issues that until we go on this journey we don't even know we have. And by the way, I'm talking about me. I'm the poster child for this work. And by gosh, I'm a good manifester now. And I'm going to tell you the same thing, because I'm here not to sell books, although by all means, go and buy these books if you enjoy them and if that will get something out of them. But I am here to try to give you information that will make your life easy and effortless ultimately, as you do this step by step. You know, and one of my favorite expressions that the Chinese say, I think it's Chinese, is that the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. So let's get started. Okay. So the reason I love talking about this, but I'm a little, is because everybody can't do this. And what, you know, I have a memory floating through my mind. This happened 20 years ago, maybe more. I was listening to the radio and something had come out. It might have been the film The Secret or the book The Secret, something, you know, along those lines. One of the earlier experiences of all this that we're talking about. And they interviewed a man from a local suburb of Atlanta where I was living. And he said, I'm not going to carry that book. That's just all hogwash, and I am not about to carry it in my shop. And for those of us that were on this path and certainly know it works, we all had the same reaction. When we talked about it later, it was like, oh, poor disappointed deer. You could just hear the issues that were blocking him from even carrying that book. I happen to believe that everything's the Word of God. Everything. Even the words that you've learned are naughty. I think there's a proper time and place for everything. Oftentimes it's in the arts, you know. I remember Flannery O'Connor. Do you remember that great writer, Flannery O'Connor? She wrote very dark material. She's dead now. It was hard to take. It's even hard to take now as an adult. I think it's actually harder to take because I read it in high school. It's even harder to take for me as an adult because I understand more about what she's talking about. I'm not pushing it away like I think a young high school girl did, right? Flannery O'Connor, and the reason I'm interested in her is we were going to visit her peacock farm and have an interview with her, all of us that were in our high school class. I think one of my teachers knew her or could make that arrangement, but she got very ill. I think she died of leukemia, if I'm not mistaken. She had a peacock farm in Milledgeville, Georgia, and she was a very, very spiritual woman. She was a strong Catholic, as I recall. So I read a marvelous article. It stayed with me all these years. An interview said, how can you rationalize, now I'm paraphrasing probably, but how can you rationalize being such a strong Catholic, a religious woman, defining yourself as that, and yet writing these really horrific things? And she said, sometimes you show the grace of God by showing the lack of it. I've never forgotten that. There are all sorts of ways to show the grace of God. But let me tell you, the grace of God is in everything. And that's what we're talking about today, because what early church teaching doesn't tell us is that there is an aspect of God we use. You see, they tell us we should be used by God. And I'm sure some of that is true as we make our way through life. But it is always in cooperation with who we are as the experience, as the aspect of God as us. So you're not going to do anything you don't want to do. You see, years ago, I would have told you I was going to be the greatest screenwriter in the world, and I had all these ego plans, right? I still want to do the best work I can possibly do. But let me tell you, there was a lot of deepening I needed to do. There was a lot of growth I needed to do. Now, I never did do anything I didn't want to do. But as I grew, I found I wanted to do different, more exciting, more expansive, more positive things. And they're down there past what you think you know about yourself. So, okay. Now, let's go into some of this material. And first, I want to go into some of the problems and why, creating is an iffy experience for people. Let's talk about that and know that I'm going to give you a formula before the show is over about how to create something every time. This formula works 100% of the time here's the codicil, if you do the things that I'm asking you to do first. If you are clearer and clearer and clearer and clearer, and I make that promise to you, as you are clearer and clearer and clearer and clearer through the years, after you've worked on yourself, it's going to be easy, effortless, and graceful to manifest what you want. You are in charge of having what you want, creating what you want. You've already done that. You have. You might have created what you don't want. I'm going to explain what you did. I'm going to explain what you did, so you don't do that again. All right, shall we launch in? Everybody wants a lot of money, for example, all right? This is going to lead us into our first point. There is no problem with that, but money in itself is almost impossible. Hey, Patrick! How are you? I'm so glad that you are there. Thank you, Pat. Pat and I go way back. I mean, what, Pat? 20 years, 22 years ago or something like that? We've known each other that long. And I adore him. Money itself, I want to get back to our subject. Money itself is very hard to manifest. Now, let's talk about why. Because there's no such thing as money, really. It's a unit somebody made up. Man-made, somebody made up, you see. It's a number, and numbers don't carry much energy of themselves. They're units of whatever you're counting, right? Whether it's $1 or whether it's eggs or whatever. It's units of something, and those somethings carry energy, but money doesn't. Isn't that interesting? Those of you that are saying, I'm too old to do this, come on. Age is just a number. And that really is true, but that's the principle behind age is just a number. Okay, I suggest you believe it too, because I think we should be productive till the day we die. And that's going to be a long time from now for everybody. What is money anyway, other than what I've just said? I want you to realize that money is energy. I'll take it a step further, and that is, if money is energy, everybody can generate energy, right? What else is money? I'm going to tell you. Money's God's love. Money's love. But take that to the bank with you. God's love, to be more precise. Absolutely. You accept a lot of things from God. Do you realize that? You've accepted a home, a roof over your head of whatever kind. You've probably accepted from God a partner, a beautiful sunset that you like, a creative idea that you can develop. You've certainly invested. You certainly accept God's love through friends and new friends. But money, many people say, not so fast, amigo. What if your family never had any? What if you're afraid that if you had it, you wouldn't spend it wisely? What about your dad when he got it, losing it all with bad investments, making poor decisions? What if you think you will? What about your mother's prejudice against rich people? By the way, there are just as many prejudices against poor people. You know, they're all issues, and they're all the same issue. Their fear of the lack of money, not money issues. Their fear of the lack of it. Really important to know. Their fear of the lack of it. You clean up the way you talk about this, because you aren't fearing money. You're fearing the lack of money. You're fearing having it and losing it. You're fearing not having it. Everything in between. Those issues and other like issues are in the way of you manifesting what you want, certain. There are going to be a lot more that we come up with. I urge you to write some of these things down so you can think about them. And you're certainly going to want to write some things down later on in the body of this talk about the formula that will get you what you want every time. If we can clean up your act first, you'll be an adept at it. Okay. Hi. Hello, Lisa. Well, I think the same of you. Hello, sunshine and light. Glad to know you and have you online. All of you that are listening on Blog Talk Radio, I'm talking to my friends that are on Facebook Live, and you can send me messages on that, so that's great. Oh, by the way, I haven't told you that if you want to talk to me, instead of just hearing this lecture, the guest call-in number is 347-850-1647. Know that will put you directly on the air with me. So don't call that number unless you want to be on the radio and have your voice broadcast on Facebook Live. Okay. All right. It isn't just about money, abundance that we have a hard time with. It's anything really. Anything you really, really want. And this is why you can generate a parking spot near the front of the mall, but you have a really hard time generating what you truly want for your life. We're going to talk about all the different elements of that and aspects of that and why. And we're going to give you some suggestions on how to get around that as well. I think the ultimate way, of course, is to resolve those issues in you and find out who you really are authentically. You see, who you are authentically has choices. What are the choices? Well, to do what your mother and father did or not. Or not is always the way, by the way. To live your true potential. Find out who you are authentically, and let's live that. Bring your sense of self to everything. Never abandoning who you are and what you know, but not necessarily having to share it either, unless it's important to do so. Removing the ego, which always gets us in trouble. It's not the ego, by the way. I said that erroneously. It's the ego child's mind, the part of us that acts like a child. The ego is there and designed to keep us healthy, you know? Give us a sense of past and future, and make us wise because things hurt us back then that we now have an experience of and can avoid. But we're avoiding too much. And I'm putting that on the table right now. Okay. You'll hear more about that too. All right. You've learned two things about life. Those of you who've listened to the show for a while, know these two things, okay? Every human being walking the planet, I don't care who they are, what culture they are, what economic status they are, what race they are, or anything else. You've learned two things from your childhood, and that is somebody doesn't care about you. By the way, I'm going to give you a hint who that is. You, ultimately. And number two, I never get what I want. Those are the two issues in life. You don't care about me, and I never get what I want. So right now, I want you to realize that as I am teaching you about how to manifest, you'd be better off to challenge those issues. And it's not as easy as challenging those issues. You know why? Because they're umbrella issues. I don't get what I want is an umbrella. There are a million pieces to that umbrella. We have to pull all the threads out for you to just go, I live this way. I live easily and effortlessly. I always get what I want. In fact, if I don't get what I want, I'm the one in the way. Let's look at why. Let's look at what I'm doing, you see? And that's how we want it to be for you. Another umbrella, you don't care about me. We can say, God doesn't care about me. We can say, I don't care about me. We can just, there we go. Oh, was that, the feed was stuck on the empty chair for a spell. Oh, I just thought, thank you, darling. I appreciate it. Pat just explained that when apparently I got up to get my pillow, it took the empty chair. Pictures of that. But now I'm back, apparently. Well, thank you, Pat. Appreciate that, you telling me. You know, I don't know what's going on with us. If I don't get some sort of, you know, flashing red sign saying you're about to combust, I actually don't know what's happening. I'm about to disappear from the screen again. Ooh, there I go. Nice rolling chair. I am turning on the air conditioning because it's hot. We were so thrilled yesterday because it started getting really cool, you know, like fall is here. And it's only the 1st of August, 2nd of August now. But not today. All right. So you can see how your desires to manifest well are smashing up against God doesn't care about me, I don't care about me, and I never get what I want. So if we have any issues in those departments, and I guarantee everybody does until they don't, we need to address those things, right, in a conscious manner if these things are going to be easy and effortless. I'm not saying you are not going to be able to manifest. I'm saying you will. The more you follow the formula without interference, the better you'll do. But suppose there is no interference anymore. Now we're talking about being the racehorse that I hope you will choose to be ultimately by doing some work on yourselves, okay? All right. These issues that we just talked about, you don't care about me and I never get what I want, are in the way of people manifesting growth, change, and opportunity easily and effortlessly. Now you keep in mind, those are the words that are really important to me, easily and effortlessly. Having done this all myself, I'm going to tell you, I was as resistant as anybody in the world. Had a huge ego, okay? Life is easier and brings you more when you are not working from that ego child's mind and when you are doing something else. Oh, we're all recognizing that we're in it from time to time, but that's the important thing. You recognize that you're in it and you get yourself out of it right away. There's a really scary word I just said for most people. Now, your attitude is going to change about this if you will do what I'm asking you to do. All right? And the word itself is change. Change. Most people would rather hang on to the status quo, of course. It's familiar, right? At least they know where the rocks in the water are. And many people can't even imagine there's smooth sailing out there, going where you want to go. A lot of people who are still caught in the ego child's mind equate change with something bad happening, or at least being out of control enough to be vulnerable to something bad happening. Sometimes the fear is enough. They don't even need to manifest something bad. The fear of something bad is enough. This simply isn't true. It's not true. Change, growth, and opportunity are the energies of moving on. They are the energies of evolving and of learning something new and of becoming more valuable, and the energies of getting what you want. You have to be willing to confront your fears if you're going to get what you want easily and effortlessly. Again, don't forget, those are the words we're working on right now. because most people would rather avoid the fears, right? Let's avoid looking at that. That hurts. That has even the potential of hurting. Well, you're avoiding the entire potential when you're afraid of any kind of potential, right? You understand that? I laugh that, emotion's kind of like a cup, and you have a little teeny band right here that is, let's say, sadness, and we'll avoid the whole cup just to miss that band. When the fact is, this cup contains nothing but good things for you. So what I'd rather you do is face and resolve whatever it is that you're avoiding in that cup. That's the choice too. Because if you're avoiding, guess what you're doing? You're abandoning yourself. If you abandon yourself, you have no choice but to do what you've always done to cope. And those, my dears, are called issues. So if you're going to change, you have to look at that. Okay? Because you've got to be here. You've got to not abandon self. And a lot of people have got to learn not to abandon yourself. I had to learn in my way. You have to learn in your way. But it's on the table. If we don't work from a sense of self, we're leaves in the wind, do you know? Being battered around by things, having reactions to things, but never in control of our lives. Who is this to create the life? There is no one there to create the life. So let me tell you right now, if you recognize that as you, then what we need to do is go back to how to be authentic, cognitive distortions, address those things, and get you ready to have a wonderful experience of living. Okay. You have to be willing to confront the fears instead of avoid them. What happens is a lot of times we will go into fantasy thinking to cope with this because we're not moving. We know we're stuck, but we're not saying we're stuck to ourselves. We pretend that we're moving. You know, a really good way to pretend you're moving is to be in fantasy about it. That makes you feel like you're moving, but you aren't doing anything. You're creating fantasy. Fantasy is its own reward. Won't hurt you. That's a guarantee. But it won't get you anywhere either because you stay there. It's not real. It's not a vision. It's not something that you can manifest. Fantasy is fantasy. So, by the way, is yearning. Yearning substitutes for reality. They're all the same thing. If you, indeed, and here's the interesting thing about the word miracle. I believe in them. In fact, I'm going to share some with you, and some today or next week. I'm going to tell you some miracles. I absolutely believe in miracles. I think all of life is a miracle, quite frankly. But the way most people think of miracles is magical thinking. And magical thinking is fantasy. And you be careful of that. Because the fantasy, I'm going to tell you right now, needs to be shattered. We used it as a coping mechanism when we were young. When things were really intense and we didn't know how to handle them, we went into our heads and created fantasy. We have a fantasy father and a fantasy mother that behaved much better than our real ones did, in some cases. We have a fantasy us, and possibly a fantasy family, and a fantasy work environment. But let me tell you, the negative thing about fantasy, once you have survived and reached your adulthood. First of all, you can't create anything out of it. And second of all, when reality comes smashing up against it, you, the fantasist, will be hurt worse because you had fantasy. It's a real important thing to recognize that you're doing to yourself, and a real important thing to shatter and get over. Live in the real world and see the positivity around you. We're going to talk about that too, and why people see negativity instead of positivity, but that's coming up. Okay. Fantasy is like visualizing winning the Academy Award before you've ever even taken an acting class. It's probably not going to happen. Fantasy, all fantasy, should go. Where it belongs, kids, is in creative endeavors. Put it on the screen, put it in your books, put it in the garden. Create fantasy by all means. You could put it in your cooking, but don't put it in your lives. That's not going to work. You cannot manifest unless you accept reality. Okay. Fantasy is a really hard thing to break. And I've never seen, and I'm being honest with you, I've never seen anybody do this by themselves. Usually you have to have a therapist, a guide, an energy worker, somebody to help you break fantasy, because fantasy hits the opiate centers of your brain. It's your heroin, it's your drug. Okay? You don't need drugs to actually have the opiate centers work. It makes us feel better. When we fail, we go there and we're great success. You see? By the way, you're not going to have a positive fantasy. Here's the rub. Without a negative fantasy. Because you know it's not true. So a lot of times you'll fantasize and you'll make yourself feel better. You'll get very depressed. And you know what the addictive part of this is? Because you're so mean to yourself most of the time, you have a system to soothe yourself. And you'll soothe yourself. And that's the addictive part, because you never got that from anybody else. And then you'll get up and do the whole thing over again. You'll put up with that depressing, horrible part, because the momentary fix is there, the opiate hits the opiate centers, and the soothing is there. So you're getting something out of that, see? But do you have to do it anymore? No, you don't. It's an old system. It's like an old system that doesn't work for you anymore. It's an old sweater, if you will, that you had when you were in 5th grade. It doesn't fit your life anymore. It doesn't fit what you know and what you want to know and who you are becoming. So, if you are using fantasy, you're abandoning your authentic self. And if you are doing this over and over and over again, you are giving yourself no choice but to do it again and again and again and again. It becomes an entrenchment, you see. You have to use all the devices and disorders that you did when you were a child to give you the illusion that you're doing something, going somewhere, and that you have value and more. Fantasy does various things for various people. Sometimes it's nothing but a soothing activity that you get out of that, because your positive and negative fantasies don't work anymore. These issues that we're talking about here point out an imbalance. They point out that there is not that sense of self, that you have abandoned that you are cycling through behaviors and thoughts and feelings that are no longer serving you, and that you are cycling by rote programming, if you will. This next moment is new and fresh. You've been there before. You're thinking the same old things. You're feeling the same old things. You're doing the same old things. What it's saying is, it's time for change. It's actually calling you to change. If you keep doing what you're doing and not getting anything or anywhere, you always have a sense of futility. If you have faced and gone, oh my God, I feel futile, it's hard to get out of bed in the morning, welcome to doing the same thing over and over and over again. And not planning to get out of it. Now you can get out of it, but if you're not planning to get out of it, if you're not heeding that call yet, there's the futility. Guys, I'm not talking about anything that I don't understand because I've been through, but we just don't have to live that way. And that's why I do what I do. I'm trying to tell you, come on, okay? Now, issues are sidetracking people. They just are. It's as if you're in the car and you're trying to drive straight ahead, and yet your wheels are imbalanced and not aligned, and they keep pulling you to the right. You get that? You understand that image? Okay, good. You're not going to get anywhere close to your destination unless you correct the imbalance. I want this to work beautifully for you in your life, so I am asking you to consider what I'm saying. To manifest well, you're going to have to conquer your negativity and your negative thinking. Because to do this well, you must believe that your life has been perfect. Now, here's some really important points. That your life has given you exactly what you need in the way of life lessons. That everything you want is now, right now, and always has been inside of you. It was programmed into you from the time you were conceived. All the abundance, all the joy and creativity and love, all there. But you don't use it. Using it is your potential. It is the energy of using it, and it's all the things out there for you to achieve as well. But the interesting thing about a potential is you'll never stop. I've been interested in it since I was a girl. I didn't use a big old word like potential, but I knew there was something more. I just knew there was more and more and more, and I didn't know what it was. And going on a journey, I found that's what I've always been interested in, human potential. And you have a lot of it. Everybody does, but we're in our way. You must believe that God is all you are, the low frequency and the high frequency. You are all of that. In fact, if you are negating the lower frequencies and the bad things, you are. You're denying a lot of energy that needs to come back to you when your peace is made with that into the moment, so you are committed and solid and present here, and that you have energy to use, you see. You must believe that God is all you are, the low frequency and the high frequency, all one, better known as the egoic child's mind and the highest self, by the way. The egoic child's mind, the fear-based self, the highest self, the love-based mind. Both of these things are God, according to your understanding. There's nothing here that isn't God. It's all energy. Energy is God. And while there are many aspects of God in the world, you are the one you can use. Is that shocking? I often say this. You are the one you can use. That's the energy available to you. Guys, as much as we like each other, you can't use my God. That's my God. It's the one I use. You can't use nature's God. Now you can enjoy nature, but you can't use that God. The only one you can use is you. Unless you're caught up in that old Judeo-Christian thing about God out there, some sort of remote thing that will give us our reward in heaven. You don't think the tree in the yard is using energy? It's all energy, and it's using energy to grow and prosper. Everything uses energy, except for us and our ego child's mind thinking. You get that? So get over that. Use this. Use this that you are. You have unlimited potential. I am going to tell you that. You are. The only thing that's going to limit you is you're thinking. And you're living by rote. Okay? It's a good way to stay safe, according to the ego child's mind. It's a really great way to limit you and never get to your potential as well. We also need to stop telling our stories. Our stories about how hard it is, and about what a victim we were, and about how family is everything, even if they were toxic. I want you to realize that every single thing you're saying is an excuse, but getting on with it. You're going to come to that realization. I'm just telling you early in your process. Every single thing you're going to say out of your old story is an excuse. You just need to get on with it. All of us do. I say that to myself. I got a book to write and I'm not doing it yet. The outside God cannot exist for you as a substitute for the inside God. You cannot use nature's God, my God, anybody else's God, the church's God. The one you use is the one you are. This is designed to be used by you. If you don't fully believe in God, or that God is all you are and is designed to be used by you to create the life you want, then there's some basic work to do, because it's going to be a lot easier if you believe those things. Now, I want to go back to something really important. It was the first point I made, and I want to go deeper with this. God is a God of energy. Energy comes first in everything. You cannot manifest if energy doesn't come first. You cannot birth something if energy doesn't come first. You cannot be your potential if there is not potential energy for it. Energy comes first before anything. Now, let's go into that a little bit. The Bible says that God said, and I'm not a literalist, but I think this is very interesting, really I do. The Bible says, God said, I am that I am. I am that I am. God didn't say, I am who I am. No. God, I am that I am. You know why? Because God is energy. You, my dear, are the who. The energy would be fine within itself, but for the whole system to work, it needs you. You and this energy are the creative thing, because you all really are one. You just think you're separate. That's ego child's mind again, right? You're not separate from anything in this world. We're not separate from anything. The good, the bad, the light, the dark, the most spiritual, the most profane. It's all us. Okay. It takes both of you, the energy of God and the human being it works through, to create the perfect system of manifestation. It takes two becoming one, ideally, to create anything. easily and effortlessly, and we are talking about easily and effortlessly. So, dears, everyone wants the formula I'm about to give for how to create. And it works every time, and I'm going to give it to you in just a few minutes, okay? But listen to me. You need a lot of work done before you're in the mindset to use it beautifully. Before it becomes just what you do without a whole lot of effort. So you're going to expend a lot of effort to make this work. But what if everything was removed, you were clearer and clearer and clearer and clearer, and you weren't expending any effort? Miracles. Real miracles, not magical thinking. And real miracles are just showing up all over the place. For that, by the way, we'll talk about this next week. I like 2 words. You know what I worked on for a while? For me, for my husband, because I knew I could feel somebody in my energy. But I worked on 2 words, and accepting it and being ready for it. Radical change. Acceptance of a radical change. But to do that, we've got to realize that change is good. All change is good. Even if it doesn't feel good. See, when we're kids, we go, oh, this is good, and God is here because it feels good. And this is bad, and God is here, not here because it feels bad. Devil must be here. Guys, there is no devil. There's man's ego, and man's ego child's mind that does evil. See, I'm not discounting evil. I am discounting the devil. I think that's a ridiculous concept. But I am not discounting evil. There is evil in the world. It is the absence of love and light. It's someone who chooses darkness and chooses pain and chooses cruelty. That does go on here. It's man that creates that, not the devil. I think sometimes, and this is just my personal opinion, but I think sometimes man is so harsh to itself. Man is so cruel that we had to invent the devil so that we could pass the blame off rather than be accountable for that as a society and as an individual in the world. Now, I know that the early church fathers really created the devil, and we were worshiping idols at the time, and they wanted to get our attention and have more power and get everybody coming to the church. So, okay, I get that. But I'm entitled to my opinion too, okay? And I think that's a good psychological reason that we still say the devil made me do it. And I think that's why Flip Wilson was so popular saying that. Because we knew we were doing that. And he made a joke of it. So we could laugh at ourselves. Don't you think that that might be part of what's opening us up now as we go through our history? For your sake, for the sake of all who know you, for the sake of the collective energy, for the world, work on yourself and never stop. Work on yourself and never stop. You think that's a burden? Hardly. I'm here to say to you that God is offering you the world. And look where you took it, if that's what you thought. That just shows you got some work to do on yourself. God is offering you everything. And you're going, oh, I don't want to do it all. Too much work, too much money, too much effort. You know, I did not have any insurance, anything, to pay for all my growth and change. And the wild thing was, every time I went to someone, and I went weekly at one point, years and years ago, money was always there. You don't think the universe supports this work? All work on yourself? It certainly does. That may be something to work on. All right. So here's the formula to create. Hello, John. Thank you so much for saying that, sweetheart. So here's the formula to create anything. It's an easy breezy formula, okay? Hard to do, though. Why? Well, you already know the answer to that. Unresolved issues have to be resolved. For you to do it without a lot of effort. For this just to be the way you live, kids. That's what I'm putting on the table now. The challenge that this becomes with work on yourself, the way to live, right? If you could get the unresolved issues out of the way, those limits that you so believe in off of you, and just do this formula and this formula alone, you could create anything. Now, I'm saying you will still be able to use it. I'm not being negative about that. Of course you will. Of course you will. This is just a working of energy. But if you're finding it's not working, I'm going to tell you right now, you're in the way. All right. So let's just have that understanding between us. Okay. One more paragraph before we get to the formula. If it's not working for you, what I want you to realize is there is some self-awareness that needs to happen, because all your energy that you manifest with is not going in the direction of your manifestation. It's caught up in the conflict inside you. You love and hate your father at the same time, and this confuses you, and your energy is going in a couple of directions. The woman at the next desk at work drives you crazy because she reminds you of your shrew of a sister, and you tell yourself you'll fight her to the death because you'll never let her win, right? Do you get the ego child's mind in this? I hope so. The shoulds. I should do this. I should lose weight. I should have my teeth fixed. I should do this. I should do this. I should do this. I should. Fill in the blanks of the shoulds. They're sabotaging you. In fact, all the cognitive distortions, I gave you 50 of them or more, I think, in previous shows, you know, like in the middle of last year or something. They're pulling the rug out from under you. That's all that's going on here. And I do want to say that the ego child's mind wants to cloud. You know, do you want to know something? Confusion is an issue. Isn't that something? It isn't a state of being that is normal and natural. It is an issue that you create because you don't want to know the solution. Everybody goes through it. Fine, no problem. But know what it is. You know, I love you all exactly where you are. And I mean that with all my heart. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't believe in what I was doing and care about you and your nice life. I do. And it's fine, no matter where you are. You could be an abject beginner or someone who's really struggling or somebody who's finding this easy. I want to help you all. I really do. But the one thing that I want to get you to immediately and as soon as possible is that you're honest with yourself. That you are honest and say, look at me doing this. I wanted to keep doing it for a while, but that's what I'm doing. That's a huge advantage to your healing. Because many people spend years trying to cover up, trying to be such nice people. Not look at anything dark in themselves. Oh no, we don't want to do that. And they avoid, and they don't get to the truth, and sometimes it can take years to break that down. I'm going to ask you now, be honest with yourself. That's a beautiful thing. It doesn't mean anything about you. The fact that I'm a selfish shrew from time to time means absolutely nothing about me. You know why? Because of that phrase, from time to time. But when you self-attack, here's the problem. You don't put from time to time in there. so it becomes a pronouncement on your character and on your life. Stop doing that. Stop. You're a fine person. You have your moments of not being fine, and so do I. That's human. Now be honest about it. Let's go on and get to the good stuff, and here we are. So here's what you've tuned in for, and what you'll tune in for next week if you want more of this, because I'm going to be continuing to talk about this. The formula. Write it down. Easy to forget if it smashes up against your issues. Here's the formula. Desire plus knowingness that lives in expectancy. I'm going to explain all this, by the way. Plus the actions you are propelled to take equals the manifestation of your desires every single time. I'm going to say it again to make sure you have all the elements. And then I'm going to explain, okay? Desire plus knowingness that lives in expectancy plus the actions you are propelled to take out of that equals the manifestation of your desire. Now let's break the formula down. We've got to talk about each thing, all right, in detail. I have got to have you understand this. Next week, you're going to talk about, I'm going to give you some what do I want to say, exercises to do, activities to do that are really going to cement this. But here's the thing that I believe in. I'm going to tell you why they don't work too. And I'm going to give you the rules, which nobody ever gives you, so that you can do this well. Okay? This is not airy-fairy stuff. This is practical stuff. Let's bring it into reality and have you do it well. Okay. So, here we go. Let's talk about this in more detail. What if you don't know what your desire is? Au contraire, you certainly do, because you know what the elements are. All right, here's where I'm going. Do you want, let's say you're trying to manifest a job, all right? You want a job that doesn't pay you enough? No, you want a job that does pay you well. You want a job that doesn't appreciate you and is filled with ungrateful people that are always undercutting each other? You? No. You want to work in a lovely office with everybody contributory and appreciative, possibly very creative, and everybody appreciates everybody else's creativity. Do you want to have a job in Timbuktu and have to commute? No, you do not. You want one close to home, or you want to move to another city, and that's where you'd like to get your job. Do you want a house that's run down, whose roof is leaking, who has tons of problems? You want to live in or work in a moldy, rat-infested place? Of course not. See, you do know the elements, but you're not using them to create the life you want, not using them to create that job, that home, that experience. You get it? That's your desire. You know the elements. Okay. Now here's the thing, and I want you to really understand this. You have to raise your vibration. You have to be in line with the mind of God. God is not going to come down from a cloud, old man in the beard, I guess, and grant your every wish like Santa Claus. That's not how God works. God's given you everything. It's all inside you. You're in the way. That's the way it works. Now, to God, here's what I want you to know. The energy of manifestation, saying, this is what I want, this is what I desire, and substance are exactly the same thing. So you better change your mind, and you better not lose doubt and not trust and do all the little boy and girl things that we do when it's still in energy and not in substance. Stop being so earthbound. We've got to realize that energy is substance. That's what God believes in the highest level, because it is. It's all the same thing. But what do? You know what we do? We get distracted by the miracle of creation, and we say, oh my God, a new car, and we shut it all down. We don't invest in the energy. And guys, how do you communicate with God? I'm going to tell you how you do. Where's your energy? If you're sitting in a basement room watching porn all day long, that's all you're going to get, because you're going to get more of that, because that's what you're investing your energy in. You understand that? Whatever you're investing your energy in, if you're investing your energy in the fear, even if it's subconscious, of the lack of money, welcome to the club. You're manifesting just great. You're going to get more of that. You are. You have got to wake up. Be self-aware, be responsible for where your energy goes, because that's what you're getting more of. Do you realize, and you're going to learn about this more in my book, The Life You Want. If you're interested in that book, you can get it through my website or through Amazon or something. If you're interested in this, read these things, because they're in a lot more detail, okay? You've got to understand that people think, and I've got the sources that I'm of the things I'm about to tell you right now. Science has proven that smart people think 1,000 thoughts an hour. These thoughts are cumulative. That's energy that's going into something. Is it going into your belief in lack? Or is it your belief in the fullness of God? You haven't been aware. And if you think you're going to be able to do this and do this well without the effort of awareness, the real privilege of awareness, well, you might want to look at fantasy, because this is real. This is the use of your energy. You have to think like God. That's the condition. All right? You've got to realize that God is an it, not a he or she. This is not the cult of personality. This is God as energy. You are part of that, because you are energy. Everything is. The pebble in the yard that you have never given a thought to is moving energy. And moving is the natural state. You remember that one of my favorite definitions of God is an infinite and ever-expanding set of truths, always in motion, always deepening. There's always more to know about you, God, and your potential, because that's the unity of the two. Isn't that exciting? Don't stop. Keep going. Get yourself out of the way. Go more. Okay. You must know and believe that energy and substance are the same thing. If you ask for it, it is so, whether you see that blue car in your driveway or not. It's coming. Your perceptions and your sensitivities are going to have to grow up. And in that, sharpen, get keener, see more. You must learn to be keenly self-aware. And by the way, that doesn't mean greedy and selfish. That doesn't mean self-focused, by the way. okay? Because I've had a lot of people that are clearly in their ego child's mind go, oh, I already do that. No, no, that's self-absorption, not self-awareness. And those are different things. Self-absorption comes from the ego child's mind. Self-awareness is in the highest self. You want to call yourself on your issues, commit to the truth that you find underneath those, and know that this is always evolving, deepening, growing, and getting richer. And it is. Hi, Dorothy. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, self-awareness. Yeah, the ego child's form is self-absorption and thinking of ourselves and selfishness. But the highest self is self-awareness, and you act because it's the right thing to do. It's a lot simpler than all the striving and pushing and yearning and unhappiness that we create in our ego child's mind. So, you need to be more aware of energy, more aware of self, and I do encourage you on that front, on the deepest level. Now, here's an important point, because when I was growing up, they said to manifest a car, I'm just using that as an example, you have to be in the vibration of the car. Well, what the hell does that mean? What the hell does that mean? It doesn't make any sense at all. So here's what that means. I don't know what mind that came from, but here's what they're trying to say. And I'm just arrogant enough to say, here's what they're trying to say, because that aggravated me, because it was like, it doesn't mean anything. I like things to mean something. Here's what it means. It doesn't mean you have to be compatible with the car you want. That's ridiculous. It means you have to be compatible and cooperative with the energy that creates the car and anything else you want. That's what it means. You have to be compatible and guys, this is such an important word, cooperative. I have a girlfriend, and I just love this girlfriend more than anything in the world, and she just works against herself all the time. So you say, well, why don't you do this? Have you thought about this? Have you thought about, oh, this is wonderful. You've got all these talents for this. And she says, oh, I can't do that. I can't do this. I can't do this. Before she's even tried. She shut the door. That's not cooperation. And so part of what I do for you, if you're coming in, now she's a friend, not a client, but part of what I do with you when you come in and you do that is say, look at what you're doing. I'm going to fight for you even if you are not. And I'm going to work on that so you can do something else. And we do. All right. You might not even know what you're going after. Do you know that? But the God in you, the aspect of God you are, this incredible fullness of God, does know. I mean, you may not know the name of the job you want. You know the elements. God's going to give you the answer of what the name of it is. God's going to give you the answer of what the address is of the new house in the new city. But you have to cooperate with it. And that takes a little doing to do so. Because we're always afraid. One of our big fears is God's going to take us somewhere we don't want to go. How can that be when God is all you are? Except for your issue. Well, God's your issues too, as a matter of fact. It's all from the ego child's mind. God's the ego child's mind. God's the highest self. You have the privilege of going from one energy of God to the other. That's the quest. That's the journey that everyone talks about. The spiritual journey, you see? That's the deepening of consciousness. It means you have to be compatible and cooperative with the energy that creates what you want. Okay. To be fully compatible and cooperative, you must not divide your energies with your issues. Now, I'm just talking about easy and effortless, okay? And keep emphasizing that, because this can be a lifestyle, not something that you're setting out to do. Now, all of us start with something setting out to do, all right? Watching every little thing, making sure you do it right. And I'm going to show you how to do it right. But it's not supposed to be that effortful. And one day it won't be. I assure you. You will learn to commit to the positive and the new system, moment by moment. Be more aware of these moments. Right now, we're not really waked up. We spend most of our lives unconscious. I can prove that to you. You drive a car and think about a million other things. That's an unconscious act. You may think about something when you change lane. You're driving when you change lanes. You may think about driving when you work your cruise control, when you start, stop. Otherwise, it is an unconscious act. We spend a lot of our lives unconscious. And guys, if you're going to do this well, you better be conscious. Again, you think 1,000 thoughts an hour, you smart folks out there. What did you invest in this last hour? Did you put your energy into the lack of things or the fullness of God? Where did it go? Okay, we got to wake up. So, back to the formula. What if you don't know your desire? All right, if you don't know your desire, you know the elements. We've done that. All right, let's move on to the next thing, because it's the next thing that's really the problem. Desire plus knowingness that lives in expectancy. This is where everybody lets themselves down, okay? You must know what you've asked for, and you must know it's so. If you go into, how will it come? I don't have the money. How is it going to happen for me? Well, I'm here to tell you that you're on the wrong side of the fence, and you need to get your toes back over the line and into your own meadow, because the hows are God's domain. That's the mystery part of all this. There are some laws that God works in, and it's going to come to you in the least resistant way. Isn't that odd? The least resistant way. We'll talk more about that next week, okay? And the next week. We're going to be on this for a while. How is God's domain? You stop thinking about how. How is going to shut this down, because you aren't smart enough for hows. I'm not smart enough for hows. Why isn't that all right? That's not what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to want, and we're supposed to be open to the creative ideas, so that when God tells us to move, we move. Isn't that something? This is a system, and you have to work within that system if this is going to work. Okay. If you cannot stay there, or you think this won't work, and your mind keeps drifting to how, that shows you there's a bit of work we need to do. You can do this, and I'll tell you why you can do this, and I know you can do this. You want to know why? Because you suspend disbelief when it's important to do so. You go to the movies, you enjoy television, you listen to storytellers. You don't say there, that can't happen, that car can't jump, that defies gravity, that can't happen. No, that wouldn't happen. No, nothing like that can happen, because that would spoil the story. You sit there suspending disbelief and enjoy your story. You already have that talent. You're just not using it where it really matters here. are you? That's right. It is needed here. I think of this in several images. And one is, you don't just paint a room, you prepare the room to be painted, don't you? You don't perform brain surgery without years and years of study and training. You don't become an engineer by wanting it. The key is to prepare, to use the system, prepare to do this well. And that, believe it or not, is the way you are living. You've either prepared well or not, but there's no time like the present to prepare well. And that's why I'm saying be more self-aware. But here's what most people do. Most people plant a seed, and they're very excited about it. It's a perfectly fertile seed. It's going to grow, all right? And they give it plenty of light and plenty of water, and a few days pass, and that's when the anxiety and the doubt comes and the distrust, because they aren't seeing anything. So they go out and they dig up the seed to see if it's sprouting, and you do that enough, and you've killed a whole exercise. Nothing's going to grow for you. Remember, it all starts with energy. You have to let the energy work. You have to support the energy by holding it there. This is where faith comes in. Surely it is where faith comes in, absolutely. And it will help you tremendously for you to think energy and not be rushing to outcomes and substance. You have to be patient with the process. You have to let all things develop organically. Do you think you're going to have a good relationship like that? Let me tell you. I've known my husband 50 years, but we've only been married for the last time. And we are having to let things organically develop. It's what you do to honor each other and yourself in the process. It is the natural thing to do. Every thought, every sentence, every action, heck, even the pebble in the yard is doing this. They're all moving energy. You've got to move your mind, move your emotions, change what you do. You see, you've got a script. Your life is a script. It's already written. And the ending is the same. Whatever you're living, whatever your issues are, whatever your limitations, you've got that outcome. So if you're going to change the outcome, you got to change the script. And this means looking at the details every moment. I mean, the literal moment. Everybody is surprised you hear me say that. But at one point in your process, you're going to say, oh my God, you mean the literal moment. Yes, indeed. I'm telling you that early. I mean the literal moment. Okay. So realize where the preponderance of energy is. What are you spending the most time on? Are you spending it in belief in lack, or are you spending it in belief in fullness? You have both those things inside of you. One is the ego child's mind, one is the highest self mind. And when you're first starting this work, you get confused about those minds. You can't tell the difference. And here's the difference. The ego child's mind is fear-based. It believes in lack. Any kind of lack. It's not so literal sometimes. It just kind of is the undermining feeling that things aren't going to go your way. All right? It is self-indulgent. It is selfish. It may think of you, but only in terms of what you can do for it. It will think of itself exclusively, or think of you exclusively, which is still all about it, because it's just made itself a victim, and that's its drama. We all have that. Guys, to deny you have the ego child's mind is to deny the energy that you're going to need to manifest. Face it, be honest with yourself, and let's get it. You have another part. This other part is the love-based fullness of God's self. This is the part of you that believes in the fullness of God and the abundance. It's the whole part of you that is triggering and saying, that's why I'm listening to a show like this. Because if you just believed in the other, you wouldn't be calling me. You see? I think out and out really good atheists, they're all in the ego child's mind, I think. Many times they really believe in the lack of everything. And it might surprise you to know that I feel that they're very spiritual people because they're still using their spiritual energy. They just have it invested in the lack of things instead of in the fullness of things. That's all. Okay. So energy and substance must merge for you to be the same thing. Because everything starts as energy. Everything. We have established this, and now you must know that substance will follow. Stop digging up the seed. There can be no doubt. What of your issues you don't care about me that we talked about? And by the way, that translates to God doesn't care about me. Huh? What happens to the issue? I never get what I want. Okay? I say you better handle these if you're going to do this well, or you're going to find yourself outside barefoot in the dark digging up this seed to look for evidence. Stop it. You don't need evidence. It'll manifest. Do what you do. Get yourself out of the way. Get yourself out of the way. You're challenged right now with all this information and more that I'm going to throw your way. And this is, do you realize this is your potential? I hope you're not seeing it as, oh my God, because you can listen to this show over and over and over again and get everything. You don't have to be dramatic about it. The show is now archived for you to listen to. Thank you, Dorothy. Dorothy says, yes, I like that. Hand in the air, yes. Okay. You can listen to this over and over and over again. You can indoctrinate yourself with it. Good, do it. Send it to all your friends, I hope. We're trying to get the word around. So this will be a better world, a lighter world, a happier world. Because this is rather an unhappy world right now, where everybody thinks something is being done to them. Wow. We got some work to do as a society, as a world society, not just as a local society. Okay. Your potential resides in your energy. And most people don't have a clue that there is a deeper consciousness. And there is. You're listening to this show because you know. Okay. So back to the formula. Oh, I've got 1 minute, 2 minutes. Ah! Okay. I'm going to stop here. Because this next part, honestly,
90 seconds.
Yeah, there's the woman. The woman. The next part is so important to you. We need to talk about knowingness that lives in expectancy. We need to talk about action. These things need to be discussed in greater detail and a lot more. So I'll be here, and I hope you will, next Sunday at 10 o'clock in the morning, Eastern Standard Time. No, Daylight Savings Time. Sorry.
60 seconds.
I don't know what month it is. And we'll keep on right where we left off, if that's all right with you. Now, I wish you a very good life. I wish you the ability, I'm going to pray for you after this, but I want what you can lift off of this to be lifted off. I want you to be honest with yourself. I want you to recognize your limitations. I want you to suspend them and put them over here, and I want you to try this formula this week. Okay? I want you to hold that knowingness. I want you to hold it. Don't hold it in fantasy. Hold it in reality, because energy goes to substance is a truism, right? Hold it. Hold what you know. Thank you so much for
10
everything.
seconds.
If you want to know more about this, I am going to say The Life You Want. If you want a lighter version, The Teacup Prophecies. Enjoy them, okay? I love you very much. Y'all take care, and I'll see you next week. God bless you. God loves you through you, so you be kind to yourselves and aware. Thank you.